My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the quiet darkness. I carefully placed the headphones over my ears, the soft cushions sealing out the world. On my phone screen, a single file was ready to play, its title a glowing promise: learn English while you sleep. I remember the desperate hope that filled me as I pressed play, a whispered voice beginning to list vocabulary words. I truly believed that by morning, a miracle would have happened, that the language would have seeped into my mind without any real effort from me. I was chasing a dream, a magic shortcut that millions of us have desperately wanted to be real. If you have ever felt that same longing, that same desire for an easy path to fluency, then you already know the first part of my story. But what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about learning. This idea, this fantasy of learning while you sleep, is incredibly alluring. It taps directly into our deepest wishes. Our lives are a constant whirlwind of responsibilities, demanding jobs, endless chores, family obligations, and social commitments. Finding a spare hour, or even 30 minutes, to sit down and properly study a new language can feel like an impossible task. So when we see an advertisement that whispers of effortless learning, of gaining knowledge while we rest, it feels like discovering a secret key. It feels like we have finally found a way to cheat the system, to make progress without sacrificing the little free time we have. I wanted so badly for it to be true. I imagined myself waking up, my mind mysteriously filled with new phrases in perfect grammar, ready to converse with the world. It was a beautiful, seductive dream. But here is the critical question, the one that eventually shattered my illusion and set me on the right path. Does it actually work? Can you genuinely become fluent in English, or any language, just by playing audio recordings while you slumber? For many years, dedicated scientists have been fascinated by this very question. They have conducted extensive research, using advanced technology to monitor brain activity during the different stages of sleep. They have run controlled experiment after controlled experiment, testing whether complex information like a new language can be absorbed by a resting mind. The culmination of all this rigorous scientific inquiry has led to a simple, clear, and definitive conclusion. The answer is no. You cannot learn a completely new language like English while you are in a state of sleep. When I first understood this truth, it felt like a disappointment. It was sad to let go of that magical fantasy, to accept that there was no effortless secret waiting to be unlocked. But very quickly, that feeling of disappointment transformed into something else, something much more powerful: liberation. This was, in fact, wonderful news. It was good news because it freed me from chasing a phantom. It allowed me to stop wasting my time, energy, and hope on a method that was never going to deliver on its promise. I could stop looking for magic tricks and start building real skills. I realized that learning a language is not about finding a shortcut. It is about embarking on a meaningful journey. It is a rewarding process that demands your effort, your time, and your dedication. And let me tell you, the profound satisfaction that comes from this journey is infinitely better than any magic trick. The authentic pride of understanding your first full movie in English without subtitles, the exhilarating rush of having a fluid conversation with someone from across the globe, the confidence of expressing your deepest thoughts and ideas in a new tongue, these achievements provide a joy that passive, mythical sleep learning could never, ever offer. So, in this guide, we are going to walk the real path together. We will leave the dream of sleep learning behind us and focus entirely on the methods that are genuinely effective, practical, and yes, even enjoyable. This is not a story about shortcuts. This is a story about constructing real, lasting abilities, one solid brick at a time. It is the story of how you can truly, authentically, and confidently learn English. To understand precisely why that nighttime miracle method fails, we need to grasp two fundamental concepts that are the very pillars of effective learning: active learning and passive learning. These two ideas are the master keys that unlock the mystery of how our brains genuinely acquire and retain a new language. Let's start by dismantling the first one. What exactly is passive learning? Passive learning occurs when you are merely a receiver of information, a bystander to the language. Your brain is in a low engagement state. It is not wrestling with the material, analyzing it, or trying to use it. It is analogous to being a passenger in a car, gazing out the window at the passing scenery. You see the landscape, the buildings, and the trees, but you are not operating the vehicle. You are not making any decisions about the route, the speed, or the direction. Common, everyday examples of passive learning are all around us. You might listen to an English podcast while your primary focus is on preparing dinner or cleaning the kitchen. You could watch an English language movie, but you rely heavily on subtitles in your native language to understand the plot. Perhaps you have an English news channel playing in the background while you scroll through social media on your phone. In all these situations, your ears are detecting the sounds of the English language, but your cognitive engine is not fully ignited. You are a passive observer, not an active participant. Now, this does not mean passive learning is entirely without merit or completely useless. It can provide a valuable service by gently acclimating your ear to the unique sounds, the rhythm, and the musical intonation of English. It can help you develop a sense of comfort and familiarity with the flow of the language. However, and this is a crucial point, it is profoundly insufficient for the task of actively learning, internalizing, and accurately recalling new vocabulary or complex grammatical structures. And sleep learning, as you might now deduce, represents the absolute most extreme form of passive learning possible. Your brain is in an essential state of rest and recovery, not in a state of focused work or encoding new information. This brings us to the powerful alternative, the true engine of progress, active learning. Active learning is the complete opposite of its passive counterpart. Active learning demands that your brain roll up its sleeves and get to work. It is a state of full engagement with the material, where you are dynamically thinking, processing, doing, and using the language. Using our previous analogy, active learning is not being a passenger, it is being the driver of the car. You are in the driver's seat, your hands on the steering wheel, your eyes focused on the road ahead. You are making constant decisions, you are reacting to your environment, and you are fully responsible for the journey. This active control is what creates real, lasting neural pathways. Let me give you concrete examples of what active learning looks like in practice. It is when you listen to that same English podcast, but now you pause it periodically to try and write down the core ideas or summarize what you just heard. It is when you watch that movie with English subtitles instead of subtitles in your own language, and you halt the playback to look up the definition of a new word that caught your interest. It is when you courageously speak English with a language partner, even if your sentences are imperfect. It is the act of writing a short, personal paragraph in your English journal about your day, or diligently completing a grammar exercise or a vocabulary quiz. In every one of these scenarios, you are not just a receptacle for information. You are an interactive participant. You are forcing your brain to comprehend, to retrieve, to manipulate, and to produce the language itself. Why is this active engagement so utterly vital? Active learning is the true secret to making tangible, rapid progress in English. When you are actively involved in the process, you are sending a powerful signal to your brain. You are essentially telling your cognitive machinery, this information is important. Pay attention. You need to remember this. Your brain responds to this command by working diligently to forge robust, durable connections between neurons. These strengthened neural pathways are what we ultimately experience as memory, as knowledge that we can recall and use when we need it. It is the biological foundation of knowing something well. Think for a moment about the process of learning to ride a bicycle. Is it possible to learn this intricate physical skill just by passively watching videos of other people cycling? The answer is a resounding no. It is simply impossible. You absolutely must get on the bicycle yourself. You have to feel the imbalance, try to pedal, grip the handlebars, and inevitably, you will probably fall down a few times. But each of those attempts, each instance of practice, is an active lesson that your brain and your body learn from. You are learning actively, through doing, through failure, and through correction. Learning English operates on the very same principle. You cannot achieve fluency merely by being a passive listener, just as you cannot learn to ride a bike by only watching others. You must actively participate in the process. You must try to speak, even if your grammar is wobbly and your pronunciation is imperfect. You must try to write, even if your sentences feel simple and contain errors. You must try to understand spoken and written English, even when it feels challenging and your comprehension is incomplete. The remainder of this guide will concentrate intensely on these active learning methodologies. We will provide you with a wealth of straightforward, practical, and highly effective ways to engage with the English language every single day. It is critical to remember that the ultimate goal is not to discover the easiest way to learn. The goal is to uncover the most effective way to learn. And the most effective way, backed by overwhelming scientific evidence and the experiences of millions of successful learners, is always the active way. This shift in mindset, from passive receiver to active participant, is the most significant step you will take on your journey. It transforms you from a spectator into the driver of your own learning vehicle, and that is when the real journey toward fluency begins. The foundation of all language acquisition is built upon the skill of listening. It is the primary channel through which we first encounter and begin to decode a new language. However, as we have established, merely hearing English is not sufficient. We must graduate to practicing active listening. Active listening means you are dedicating your full attention and consciously striving to comprehend the message, the nuances, and the underlying intent. Let us delve into some powerful active listening techniques that you can begin implementing today, right now, to transform your comprehension skills. The first technique is focused listening. This is the direct antithesis of having English on in the background as ambient noise. For this method to be effective, you must intentionally create a distraction-free environment. Find a quiet place where you will not be interrupted. Put your phone away in another room, or at the very least, turn it face down and silence all notifications. Close any unnecessary tabs on your computer. Your sole mission for the next 10 to 15 minutes is to listen with unwavering focus. Begin by selecting a short audio clip. This could be a segment from a podcast designed for English learners, a brief news report, or even a single scene from a television series. The audio should be at your current level or just slightly beyond it, presenting a manageable challenge. Now, engage in a structured listening process. Initiate the first listening. Play the entire audio clip from start to finish without pausing. Do not pressure yourself to understand every single word. Your objective here is simply to grasp the general topic, the main idea, and the overall context. Who is speaking? What is the primary subject being discussed? What is the emotional tone or mood of the clip? Proceed to the second listening. Now, play the audio again. This time, you have permission to pause the playback. Your goal is to dig deeper for specific details. Listen for key facts, specific vocabulary, and transitional phrases. If you encounter an unfamiliar word that seems crucial to the meaning, write it down in a dedicated notebook. Conclude with the third listening. Play the clip one final time. Armed with your knowledge of the main idea and some key details, see how much more of the audio you can comprehend. You will likely be surprised by how many additional words and phrases become clear during this focused repetition. This disciplined practice trains your brain to concentrate and to extract meaning from context, even when individual words are unknown. The second powerful technique is listening with a purpose. Another supremely effective method to become an active listener is to assign yourself a specific mission or a concrete task to accomplish while you listen. This provides a compelling reason to listen with heightened care and precision. Here are several simple yet highly effective tasks you can adopt. You can listen for specific information. Before you even press play, formulate a question in your mind. For instance, if you are listening to a daily weather forecast, your question could be, "What will the high temperature be in London this Saturday?" Then, you listen with razor-sharp focus, scanning the audio specifically for the answer to that single question. This transforms the activity from passive hearing into a targeted search. Another excellent task is to listen and write down keywords. Choose a short audio clip and challenge yourself to identify and jot down the 5 to 7 most important words you hear. This forces you to discriminate between essential vocabulary and supporting language, training your brain to identify the core pillars of the message. A more advanced task is to listen and summarize. After you have listened to a short story or a talk, immediately attempt to articulate a 1 or 2 sentence summary out loud or in writing. For example, You might say, this audio was about a woman who decided to start her own business selling handmade candles. When you listen with a defined purpose, you are no longer a passive receiver of sound waves. You become an active hunter, a detective searching for specific clues and information within the spoken language. The third technique, and an incredibly powerful one, involves using transcripts. A transcript is the written text that corresponds exactly to the audio recording. Many educational podcasts and videos designed for language learners provide these transcripts, and they are a goldmine for active learning. Here is a highly effective method for using transcripts. First, listen to the audio segment without looking at the text. Rely only on your ears and do your best to understand the content. Second, listen to the audio again, but this time, follow along with the transcript. This is where the magic happens, as you directly connect the sounds you are hearing with the written words you are seeing. You can observe the spelling of new vocabulary and analyze how sentences are structurally formed. Third, read the transcript out loud yourself. Now, you can actively practice your own pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation, striving to mimic the native speaker's pattern. Finally, listen one last time without the visual aid of the transcript. You will be genuinely amazed at how much clearer and more comprehensible the audio sounds after this intensive process. This method transforms a simple listening exercise into a comprehensive lesson that simultaneously engages your listening, reading, and speaking skills. Of all the skills to master, speaking often feels like the most daunting hurdle for English learners. It is the moment where our knowledge is put to the test, where we feel most vulnerable to making mistakes. But it is also one of the most empowering and essential skills you will develop. The wonderful truth is that you can learn to speak English confidently even if you are not surrounded by native speakers and even without a formal teacher. The key, as with everything, lies in consistent, active practice. Let us explore some simple yet profoundly powerful ways to actively practice and build your speaking skills starting today. The first technique is harnessing the power of speaking aloud. The initial step toward becoming a more fluent speaker is to grow comfortable with the sound of your own voice speaking English. The most effective way to do this is to speak out loud, even when you are entirely alone. One powerful method is to read out loud. During your reading practice, make a habit of not just reading silently in your head. Actively vocalize the text. This accomplishes two critical things simultaneously. First, it serves as essential physical practice for your pronunciation. Your mouth, tongue, and jaw are muscles that need to develop the muscle memory for the unfamiliar sounds of English. Second, the act of speaking and hearing the words reinforces your memory, helping you retain vocabulary and sentence structures more effectively because you are engaging multiple senses. Another excellent method within this technique is to repeat what you hear. When you are watching a movie or listening to a podcast and a short, clear sentence catches your ear, immediately pause the audio and repeat that sentence out loud. Strive to copy the speaker's pronunciation, their stress on certain syllables, and the musical rise and fall of their intonation as precisely as you can. This is a deceptively simple but incredibly effective exercise for making your accent sound more natural and for building the rhythm of the language within you. It moves you from being a silent observer to an active participant in the language. The second technique, which is so valuable it deserves emphasis, is to narrate your life. We may have touched on this before, but its power cannot be overstated. Narrating your life means verbally describing your actions, observations, and thoughts in real time, out loud in English. This is active speaking practice in its purest form. You are not merely repeating memorized sentences from a textbook, you are compelling your brain to actively search for vocabulary and construct original sentences about your immediate reality. This process is fundamental to beginning to think directly in English. You can practice this from the moment you wake up. In the morning, you might say, "Okay, it's time to get out of bed. I am walking to the bathroom now. I am brushing my teeth. The water is cold." While preparing breakfast, you could describe, "I am toasting bread. I am pouring orange juice into a glass. The coffee smells wonderful." At the supermarket, you might narrate, "I am pushing my cart. I need to find the dairy section. Here are the eggs. I am putting a dozen into my cart." In the evening, you could say, "I am feeling tired now. I am sitting on the sofa. I am turning on the television to watch my favorite show." This might feel unusual or awkward at first, but it is one of the most potent methods to bridge the gap between passive knowledge and active use, making your speech more automatic and fluid. The third technique is to answer questions out loud. Another superb way to practice speaking independently is to source simple conversation questions and answer them verbally. You can easily find lists of basic English conversation questions online. A quick search will yield questions like, "What is your favorite season and why? What did you do last weekend?" or "What are your plans for tomorrow?" Read the question aloud, then pause and formulate your answer out loud in a complete sentence. For example, if the question is, "What is your favorite hobby?" your spoken answer could be, "My favorite hobby is reading. I enjoy mystery novels because they are exciting. I usually read for 30 minutes before I go to sleep." This is exceptional practice because it moves beyond single-word answers and pushes you to form complete thoughts, provide reasons, and add details, mirroring the patterns of a genuine conversation. The fourth technique involves using a voice recorder, a tool you already possess on your smartphone. This simple app can become one of your most valuable assets for improving your spoken English. Make it a habit to record yourself performing any of the previously mentioned speaking exercises. For instance, record yourself narrating your morning routine, reading a paragraph aloud from a book, or answering a set of conversation questions. After you finish recording, make it a non-negotiable step to listen back to the playback. This is where the deepest learning occurs. As you listen, be your own constructive coach. Pay critical attention to your pronunciation. Are you enunciating the end sounds of words? Is your intonation flat or does it have a natural flow? Listen for clarity and pace. Are you speaking too quickly, causing words to slur together? Furthermore, listen for any recurring grammar mistakes you might be making, such as incorrect verb tenses or missing articles. While listening to the sound of your own voice can feel strange and even uncomfortable initially, it is the most direct and honest method to identify your personal areas for improvement. You transition from being solely a student to becoming your own most attentive teacher, capable of pinpointing weaknesses and systematically working to overcome them. Speaking English is, at its core, a physical skill. Your vocal apparatus must be trained through repeated, deliberate practice. Do not fall into the trap of waiting for the perfect moment or for a mythical state of fluency to begin speaking. The perfect moment is now, exactly where you are. Begin with these manageable, active exercises. Start by reading a single sentence out loud. Narrate one simple activity you are doing. Record a 15-second answer to a basic question. These small, consistent acts of courage will compound over time, building the muscle memory and the foundational confidence you need to engage in real, meaningful conversations. Each spoken word is a step forward on your path. Reading is a tranquil yet profoundly powerful method for advancing your English. It is a portable activity that you can do anywhere, and it allows you to proceed entirely at your own pace. However, to extract the maximum benefit from your reading sessions, you must transition from being a passive reader to an active one. A passive reader simply lets their eyes drift over the words, while an active reader is constantly thinking, questioning, and interacting with the text. Let us explore some straightforward yet highly effective techniques to become a more active and efficient reader, thereby accelerating your comprehension. The first technique is to predict before you read. Before you even begin to read a new article or a story chapter, invest 30 seconds in a preview. Look at the title and any accompanying images. What do these elements suggest the text will be about? For example, if the title is "The Challenges of Modern Agriculture," you can predict the text will discuss farming, technology, and perhaps environmental issues. Read the very first sentence of the passage, as it often contains the main idea. When you make predictions, you are essentially priming your brain, preparing it to receive and organize the incoming information. This simple, proactive step significantly enhances your ability to understand and retain what you are about to read. The second technique is to interact with the text while you read. Do not be a passive consumer of words, become an engaged participant. If you are reading your own book or a printed article, use a pen or a highlighter. Mark important elements such as new vocabulary words that are essential to the meaning, interesting phrases or expressions you would like to remember, and the key sentence that conveys the main idea of each paragraph. Furthermore, write brief notes in the margins. You can jot down a question that arises in your mind, a one-word summary of a paragraph's point, or a connection you make to your own knowledge. For instance, next to a complex paragraph, you might write, "This explains the cause of the problem." This physical interaction with the text forces you to process the information more deeply and check your understanding as you progress. This marks the conclusion of this part of our guide, but it is far from the end of the journey. We have laid a powerful foundation, dismantling the myth of passive learning and establishing the core principles of active engagement. You now possess essential techniques to transform your listening and speaking from passive activities into dynamic, skill-building practices. You have learned how to approach reading not as a spectator, but as an active participant in a conversation with the text. These are the fundamental pillars upon which fluency is built. The path to mastery, however, continues. In our next session, we will build upon this solid base and unlock even more critical skills. We will delve into the art of active writing, exploring how to solidify your knowledge by expressing your own thoughts on the page. We will also uncover powerful, science-backed methods to expand your vocabulary and ensure that new words move from your short-term memory into your permanent, active lexicon. The strategies you have learned here are just the beginning. Prepare to continue this transformative journey, because the most effective ways to make your English learning truly unstoppable are just ahead.